How the f have I got myself into this mess? Britain was at war big time with Iraq and Afghanistan. And I went out to Afghanistan. Within an hour, we had Taliban coming in, blown to pieces. We had American soldiers coming in, blown to pieces, and we had to help work on them. When we've gone to the back and opened the door, there's been over 1,000 IEDs ready to go out onto the ground. As I jumped onto the roof, I can remember a blast just going off, and I turned round and just seeing all the lads on the floor. That was the worst day of my life. I threw the towel in for the SAS. It was one of the biggest mistakes in my life. Within 18 months, I owned 45 properties of my own. Hello, my name's Liam Duffy, and I am the director of a multi-million-pound business called Getting Started in Property. But I didn't start in property. I started downtown Bootle in Liverpool with my mum, my dad, my two sisters. I absolutely loved the upbringing. It was a bit rough and ready, probably wasn't for the faint-hearted, but at the time for us, it was amazing. And it's only when you grow up and your life changes a little bit, you look back and you think, that was a bit wild, but it was amazing and we absolutely loved it. I went right through school, no problems. I wasn't really a naughty kid or nothing like that. I just didn't like it. I didn't apply myself at all and I was ready to just leave. So the minute I could leave and start making money, that's when I was really happy then. But if you fast forward a little bit, little old Liam, who was about this big and that thin, then decided to go and join the parachute regiment. Probably one of the most elite units in the world. And I can remember at the time, like, especially my dad ringing me up, suggesting that I go for a different regiment rather than the one I joined. And I thought, no, this is for me. And that's what I did. I took myself off and I went and joined the parachute regiment. And early on, when I joined the paras, I realised how hard it was going to be. I remember like day 3, waking up in the morning just thinking, how the fuck have I got myself into this mess? Ringing me dad all upset saying, I think I want to come home now, dad, and stuff like that. And he was like, no, come on, mate, stick it out. And I did. And it was 28 weeks of horrendous training, like sleep deprivation. Fitness levels had to be at an elite athletic level, which is, you know, to get to that level takes a lot of discipline, time, effort, which was really, really hard. Early mornings, just becoming this new person, this new paratrooper. And the paras used to always say all the time, this place is like a conveyor belt. You know, you jump on one side and you come out and out pops a paratrooper, and that's exactly what happened. These are all like the different tests that you've got to take. And then you do the log race, and what the log race is to replicate you're taking a body out of battle, so one of your mates is injured. So it's a huge thing within this race that they used to say, if you come off the log, you're half going to get judged, because if essentially you've just left one of your mates running out of a battle. So it was a big thing. And then obviously the berry parade then. These 3 people here actually, probably like my first like mentors in life. Like, he was my section commander, he's SAS in now.
What would you say the toughest part of it was? The training?
Once you've become a paratrooper like that, or you've passed B company, there's a test after that called the mole, which is you're awake for 1 week. It's to replicate like that the Russians are coming, that we've had to dig in the ground, and you know, you're digging for 48 hours to make your base, and then when you're there you can't go sleep because they're about to come. And it's just proper fucking mind games to a point all the time where, like, they kept telling you, like, you know, you dig that and you can all go to sleep. And then when you dig that, you have to go and help someone else. But say, no, if you just dig these, you can go to sleep. And then we've done it, like, no, you need to help them. That was horrible. So after like 6 days, you come under attack. Bear in mind, you haven't slept. Lads are going delirious. I remember, like, the lad that I was next to kept asking me to, like, come in a swimming pool in the hotel. And I was like, fuck's he on about here now? But then you have to bug out then, so you get attacked and you have to do a 2-miler out. And that was the hardest thing I've ever done, because you're fucked. You haven't slept, you're tired, you're hungry. It's like anything now, innit? You know, if I put you two into war or put Afam into war, you just deal with it. Humans are unbelievable. You wouldn't run away. It's like, we're here now. We just need to deal with this shit. And that's what the good thing about humans is. They just adapt and deal with it. It's like when a bad problem comes into the business, it is what it is. It's going to hurt, it's going to be a bit painful, but we can deal with it. There's a solution to everything, and that's just the attitude that we have moving forward now. I joined at a time when Britain was at war big time with Iraq and Afghanistan. So we knew that once we passed out, we were going straight out to Afghan, which at the time was so exciting. But then I can remember this moment that actually when I did pass out and get me maroon berry and we had our parade, that like the reality struck straight away. And I vividly remember thinking, shit, I'm going to war. But it is what it is, you know. I wouldn't have not went, and we loved it. But the good thing about the paras, you know, growing up from a place like Liverpool, it's a hard, tough place to live. I always say, you know, if there's money in Liverpool, you're probably a footballer or a gangster. So trying to come up without being either of them is tough. But one thing that Pat has taught me was to be a force to be reckoned with, and to, you know, to be whoever you want to be, act like who you want to be, and don't be afraid of nothing. And that's exactly what I've done. And I bring them qualities from military life into the business life now, and we're not afraid of anybody, and we know exactly who we are and what we are and where we're going to go. And I think because of that attitude, we know that the path's quite clear, really. But when I passed out of the parachute regiment, so if you can imagine, there was 64 of us that started. Only 6 originals passed at the end, and I was chosen to be the champion recruit, which was amazing. I got a special award for that, which was fabulous, and it was good in front of my dad and my wife and stuff like that, my girlfriend at the time. That was good. And then straight into battalion life then, and you know, I went and done my jump training. I've become a qualified paratrooper, getting all my jumps in. They sent me straight out to Kenya, which was amazing, in the Kenyan jungle for 6 weeks. That was really, really good. And then you go into your battlefield preparation then for Afghanistan. So battlefield prep 6 months, and then your tour's 8 months. So it's a massive period of your life. And I can remember, like, I missed my sister's wedding. I missed loads of parties and stuff back home, stuff like that. But again, you know, it's just what you have to do at that elite level to keep up with that standard, really. And I went out to Afghanistan. And the funny thing about Afghanistan is when I flew out there, there's a base called Bastion. It's relatively safe, you know, it's over thousands of men. The Americans, the Brits there. It was an American base. And, you know, when the Americans are there was Pizza Huts and KFCs, only like in little cabins. So when I got there, I thought, freaking hell, is this what Afghan looks like? But the first thing they done with me was they put me in the hospital. So the first 2 weeks I got there, they wanted us to acclimatise instead of sending us out straight on the ground. Day 2, I got sent into the hospital. Within an hour, we had Taliban coming in, blown to pieces. We had American soldiers coming in, blown to pieces, and we had to help work on them. And again, one of them moments again, just thinking, what the fuck is going on here? But it's all part and parcel of training and immuning yourself to becoming a paratrooper out in Afghan, which was good. And then we went out to our patrol base and lived there for 7 months, and that's another story altogether. That, you know, I had a really good tour. 2 Para lost a lot of lads that tour, some very, very close. I was actually in one of the blasts with a guy called Kyle Marshall, who we unfortunately lost. That was probably the worst day of my life. One funny story about that, or not a funny story, a good story, is it was Valentine's Day. Yeah, I can remember vividly, it was Valentine's Day, and I was going home in 2 days' time for my R&R towards the end of the tour. So I was going to have 2 weeks on holiday and then come back. Well, when I say holiday, I was going to go home. But my last going out on the ground, essentially, I'm trying to use words so you understand, basically going out on the ground, my last operation, and it was the heaviest one I've ever been in my life. Valentine's Day, and I can remember back then the IED threat was seriously high. So when you come under contact from the Taliban, you usually have to stay where you are. But this day we thought, no, we're going to take the fight to the enemy. And we did. We just bounded onto compounds and was fighting all day long. And this one time we went into this compound, and it turns out it was an IED factory. So when we put our heads, if you imagine walking into the compound, there's cars, there's shit everywhere, and then there's rooms at the back. And when we've gone to the back and opened the door, there's been over 1,000 IEDs ready to go out onto the ground, and it was potentially one of the biggest finds of IEDs at that moment in time. So we all shit ourselves thinking that they were all live, pulled back, worked out that they wasn't. But what had happened was, if you can imagine a square-shaped compound where the Taliban was firing at us before we got there, as we've moved in, Taliban have ran away, but there was a wire coming from the compound all the way back to another one about 100 metres away, and they've twisted the wire to made the circuit live, which made the IEDs live, or particular IEDs. And as I jumped onto the roof, I can remember a blast just going off, and I turned round and just seen all the lads on the floor, seen Kyle Marshall on the floor, and I seen another 2 lads on the floor. I actually thought we'd been mortared by our own company. So I'm on the radio screaming at them, telling them to stop firing, but it was an IED that had gone off. And unfortunately we lost Kyle Marshall that day. and the other 2 lads survived. But what had happened was the Taliban, when you're in that position, as in a bomb's just gone off, you're at your most vulnerable. So the Taliban then attack you big time then. So they surrounded the compound and was just firing on us all day. And that was the first time that I felt like a little boy when I was out there. You know, I've been in firefights loads and loads of times before, but that one moment I felt like a child and I just wanted to go home because of what I've just seen. But obviously you can't act like that. That's not the time to act like a little boy. It's time to step up like a proper paratrooper and do your job. When I jumped onto the roof, because the Taliban were firing, I was firing my weapon and I could hear the sound of a UGL, the underslung grenade launcher. I heard the sound and I heard the bang. The bang was 200 metres away. And then I heard it again and it coming 150 metres. Then I heard it again, it coming 100. And I'm just firing in this direction now, like panicking like hell, sending the rounds down, hoping that the UGL's going to stop. And it did stop in the end after 50 metres. So that was a proper panic. So I had that blast. Then I had that moment. And yeah, that was a real tough day. But then what I loved about that day and this one moment that I take from military life to business life was we were locked in that compound for 12 hours. The Royal Air Force couldn't come in to get us because we call it the drop zone was too hot. So basically it was too dangerous for the helicopter to come in. And I can remember the order getting given to the lads saying, they're not coming in for us. We're stuck here. Bear in mind, we've run out of ammo. We've run out of food. I think there was no water. We're just waiting for people to come and relieve us. And the response from the lads was unbelievable. And I always say to our team now is, we never react, we only respond. And that's what I saw that day was, if there was ever a moment to react and panic, it was that one. But no one did. Everybody just responded. They never reacted. We've been here before, we know what to do. It is what it is. Let's just crack on and do it. That was one of the stories from Afghan that I've brought into the business, which really sticks in my mind, that one big time. So I'd done 6 months of Afghan before I went home. And I spoke to my mate and he said that he can remember talking to me. He'd just been home and come back. And he can remember talking to me. He said, you just waffled this shit to me. And I just thought, he needs to go home now. He needs a couple of weeks home, you know what I mean? And that was the day when all hell broke loose and stuff like that. And the worst day of my life. Once I got home from Afghan, I probably really should have had a good bit of time off. But I never. I went on to the elite patrols platoon, which is like reconnaissance. I went into there again. I got top lads on that one again. So I had like all these wins. And then because I'd done so well there, it was suggested that I go on to Special Forces selection with the SAS, and that's exactly what I did. But I don't know what it was. Something come over me, and at the minute that I was there, I just felt. I was getting in my own way. I was playing mind games with myself because I went on to Special Forces selection with men that had taught me how to be a paratrooper a couple of years before. So even that one messed with my mind. I was thinking, you know, I shouldn't be here. Like, you know, I'm not good enough for this. I've got corporals on the course with me and stuff like that. There's no way I can do it. And little things like back in the parachute regiment, I would teach people map reading. But then when the SAS asked me to do map reading, it all went out my head and I didn't know what to do. It was obviously I was just getting in my own way. But cut a long story short with that, I threw the towel in for the SAS. It was one of the biggest mistakes in my life. But again, it was just the biggest lessons I learned was just to not get in my own way and have a little bit of a belief in myself. And for some reason, I let the monkey on the shoulder just take over and just talk me out of it. But it's fine now, you know. If I was ever going to have any problems of leaving the army, it was nothing to do with Afghan or nothing like that. It was the fact that I was never going to be in the SAS. But I knew that I was good enough, 100%. I think that's where all the pain come from. But then, you know, I'm married now. I've got 2 kids. I could be dead. I could never have made it out of it and stuff like that. And I've got GSIT, which is the best thing ever. So there's always a positive to take from it and stuff. And then once I knew that I wasn't going to be in the SAS, after a couple of years of going back to the parachute regiment and realising that the war's over, there's not really much to do, I realised then it was the time for me to get out and go and make some money then. And that's exactly what I did. Especially with a character like me, is like, I make a decision, I just go and do it. I don't fuck about, I don't think about it or nothing like that. Literally, the decision's in my head, we rock and roll and we get out, and that's what I did. So I come out, I started to be a manager for a plumbing and heating company for my wife's uncle. Amazing people to give me a job and really looked after me and stuff like that, but it wasn't for me and I wasn't for them. I knew that I wanted to be a property investor and a property developer. So with my work ethic and stuff like that, I was just out there speaking to people all the time, did not have a clue what I was doing. And I met up with a guy called John Clark who changed my life. John was from London, living up in Blackpool. And when I met him, he owned 300 properties. And I just thought, no, I need to hang around with this guy, definitely. And that's exactly what I did. So I'd be working for the other company. I'd do 2 shifts. I'd get my Monday, Tuesday shift in on the Monday, so I could go down to Blackpool Tuesday and just sit with John. Within 18 months, I owned 45 properties of my own, which was fabulous. And I remember the day when it all completed, when I collected like shitloads of keys in a bag, and I just didn't have a clue what to do. I just didn't know what to do next and just had to figure it out, because one thing I noticed was all these people were going on these big property courses and stuff like that and getting all this training, which is the right thing to do. I just didn't have that money. Didn't have no money at all. So I just had to figure it out myself of what to do, and obviously get around people like John. So that was good. That was really good. And he taught me how to trade property and stuff and make big money. So if you can imagine, I went from £1,500 a month in the army to then working with John Clark, and he's teaching me how to trade deals and make 50, 60 grand, which was like life changing. I remember I done my first deal with John and I got paid £15,000. And I can remember he put it in my bank, and I can remember ringing my wife to check the bank, because we felt like we could just retire forever, and like, you know, that was us sort of for life, because I'd never seen that type of money ever. That got quickly spent on shite, by the way, but that was a good day. But he set my life up in a sense of like, I knew that it was me to be in property now, and this was my niche, and I'm very good at it as well, which is really, really good. But little did I know things like COVID were going to come at me, and black swan events like that, really. So I thought everything was cruising, making good money off my portfolio. I thought I'm done. Next minute, interest rates start to creep up, and I was noticing that my mortgage payments were going higher, and my rent was like that a little bit. Again, naivety. I just thought, I'll be sound now. And then one day it goes to even, and next minute your mortgage payments are higher than your rent coming in, because the rate that I was on was variable. So it was just pushing up with the interest, and then I had to panic sell the whole thing then. Which again, it is what it is. I got out unscathed, got it all gone, but I was back to zero. And I knew that something needed to change. Along came AFAM then, so my business partner AFAM. So how I met my business partner AFAM was, I was doing deals in Liverpool, AFAM was doing deals in Liverpool, and we started doing them together. And then before you know it, we were only doing deals together, so it was the right thing to do, was to put our heads together properly, join forces and set the limited company up and go for it. And that was 3 years ago now, and in our first year we turned over 1.2 million. We didn't even know we'd done that. We just got a phone call off the accountant. He said, you've done 1.2 mil. We were like, Jesus Christ, didn't realise that. And it's just go from there. And what I love about working with AFAM is everything that I'm not and everything that I've needed. So very, very clever, very, very organised, very systems and process based. Whereas then you've got me, who's just a hustler, wanting to make money, selling deals. And you can't do that on your own. Something will fall off if you just act the way I did. So it's good to have like someone like behind me who's like, make sure we're all fully compliant, all the paperwork's in place, everything's organised. If we want to look at a deal that we sold a year ago, we can, because AFAM's put it away correctly or stuff like that. But AFAM's just a good person to be around in the sense of super, super disciplined when it comes to money and investing. Whereas with me a little bit, I can be a little bit of a spender or just go out and blow money and stuff like that. Maybe that's just, you know, not having much of the money, and just when it comes, you want it gone. Very, very good for me little boy to be around, to learn off as a mentor and stuff like that, which is amazing. It's amazing of what we've done here in such a short space of time. So we've gone from selling deals for 3k to now selling deals and making 20, 25k, then having our first 100k month together, which was amazing. Now we're looking to do our first £250,000 month. The mad thing about it is it's going to happen very, very soon. And it's weird the way my mind shifted from wanting to do our first 10k to now looking to do our first £250,000. But we know that we can do it. So maybe we need to set that goal a little bit higher, because we know we can achieve that one. But super, super excited to see what the future brings here. And Yeah, and I can't wait.
Obviously, you've been through the army, highs and lows there, been through highs and lows at the start of your property journey.
Yeah.
What has been the toughest moment in your life?
Toughest moment in my life genuinely was the operation that I was talking about on Valentine's Day is when we lost Kyle Marshall, because I was coming home with my R&R in 2 days' time. My sergeant major said to me, "Do you want to fly the bodies home?" And it was a bad day for the paras that day. So we lost Kyle Marshall that day. 2 days before, 3 para lost 3 lads. 2 of the lads were shot by the same bullet straight through both of their heads from a sniper. And also there was chefs on camp that had got themselves into a fire and unfortunately died. So I had like 5 or 6 bodies to bring home. So if you can imagine one of them Hercules planes, Afghanistan back to the UK with coffins in, you've got me lying in between the coffins flying home with them. And we landed at Bryce Norton, and obviously we have to repatriate the lads off, you know, with the ceremony where the guards take the coffin off. But what was the saddest part for me was that I was close to Kyle Marshall's wife and family. The plane landed, I got off and I went into the family room. And as I walked into the family room, they were all there, it was chock, there was about 60 to 70 people in there. And as I walked in, they all turned around and clapped me, which was crazy. And then obviously Kyle's wife ran up and hugged me, and everyone was getting a little bit upset and stuff like that. And that was just a moment of like, that was hard, because seeing Kyle's mum and dad, you know, they've just lost their little boy out in Afghanistan in a war, and then there he is, the body's getting brought off, and it was just heartbreaking. It was just horrendous, and that was a real tough time, that one. And what was even mad is typical British Army, like, they were like, "Okay, you go home now." So I'm from Liverpool, they've landed in Bryce Norton, they were like, "Yeah, go on, you go home now." There was no transport to get home, so I had all my bag, I was still in uniform. I had to get a train to Euston and Euston to Liverpool, never had no money because I'd been out in Afghan that long. All my bank cards stopped working, so I had to ring my mum to book train tickets for me to get me home. And I'm sitting on the train, still covered in Afghan dust, normal life going on around me. A day before, I'd just been blown up to pieces in a 14-hour contact. I've just seen my mate die. I'm just sitting on that train, just thinking, what the fuck has been going on here? But yeah, it's all part and parcel. It's all character building. Makes you the man that you are today. But that was really the toughest time in my life, that.
And how difficult was it going from being in the army to adapting back to normal life?
So I think as a Scouser, you're they're very much home birds anyway. So if you look at lads on camp, every Friday there'd be a traffic getting out to camp, and 99% of it just be a load of Scousers wanting to go back home, and they're very much known for that. So going back to normal life wasn't too tough. What the biggest thing was for me was the acceptance that I was never going to be a Special Forces soldier, to a point where I couldn't play Call of Duty no more because it just triggered me. I couldn't watch military Special Forces movies because, again, it just triggered me. And one thing where I feel like I've let myself down with a little bit is I went on Special Forces selection, SAS selection, with one of my friends who's now serving as 2-2 SAS. And he was an unbelievable soldier, amazing. And I just cut all ties with him because I couldn't bring myself to speak to him because he was in and I wasn't. I remember him ringing me to see if I was all right, and I was just ignoring the call, you know. So that's not one thing, I shouldn't have done that, but that was just nothing to do with him. I loved him. That was just a personal thing for me, that. But yeah, no, like, again, I'm very much of like, let's take that cassette out of that life, throw it away and put the new cassette back in. I'm very, very much like that. Like my wife will tell you that Liam's very much cutthroat and we just move on. And yeah, so no, I got right back in. As long as you didn't mention the SAS to me, I was all right.
What do you think the biggest quality is that you learned in the army that helped you become successful in business?
I think that, like I was mentioning before, that we respond and we don't react. That's huge, that for me. But I think learning to be a force to be reckoned with and not really giving a shit about anybody else. I'm not intimidated by no one else. I'm not inferior to no one else. I just want everybody else to win. I've got an abundance mindset. And I think that's exactly what we try and do here. You know, we never compete, we create. So if there's another company down the road doing exactly like what we're doing, then we'll only ever wish them well. Not really bother what they're up to because we're solely focused on us. So it's a force to be reckoned with all the time. and just making your own shit happen, really.
So you made the big shift from being in the army to now being in property. What advice would you give to people who want to get started in property?
I think the biggest advice that I would give is over-analysis creates paralysis. So basically people just thinking far too much into it. Like me and Afan went to a course last week, and we just got asked to go down to just speak to people and stuff like that, but it was a low-level newbie course, essentially, speaking to a lot of people. And the biggest thing that I got was just people just thinking into it too much. They were that overwhelmed that they couldn't pick up the phone to an agent or an investor or start looking at things. Exactly like what I'd done on Special Forces selection. I just thought myself out of it and created this scenario that wasn't there. And that's exactly what most people are doing. There's creating scenarios that aren't there. So my biggest advice is stop thinking and just go and do it. Just go and take action and stop the thoughts. And that's it. I'm Liam Duffy. Thank you for listening to my story. There's so much more to come, so many more stories to come. We've got some really exciting stuff coming up in the business that we want to show you. So please like and subscribe, comment. Let's have a good journey together.